back with more of The Great Ace Attorney. Last time we got through the first half of the fourth episode / case thing, and this time I'm hoping we can crack through that second half, the trial. So how about we get into it and see what unfolds within this story. All right, let's jump into it. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon?
We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible.
Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court. And it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass.
Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right.
Good morning. Oh? Oh, hello. Good morning. Ah, Mr. Natsume. Good morning. Oh, yeah, is this an Ace Attorney trial that isn't murder? I believe so, yes.
Oh, are you all right, sir? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot.
The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. Oh, there's no game audio? Oh, whoops, I forgot to turn it on. That's my bad. There we go. It's on. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally?
Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume.
I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. And yet here you are, trembling. Really, because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Miss Asato?
I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea.
So that all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zeeks? Is that right, Miss Sasato?
I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zeeks is on the front of every one.
I knew it!
Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday.
Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeeks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. What a harrowing experience that was. And he fucking died, yep.
I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's.
But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country.
Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon, and for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers.
Mundane? Mundane is the most significant saga of the century to some of us.
Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it.
Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention, but there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago.
Yes, I agree.
Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. It's you! Me? Well, I suppose suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. It could only mean that you're friends with the Reaper! Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. Or racists.
I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck.
Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive! Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yeah? Yes, it's true that I'm just a student new to London with little in the way of experience or skills or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side.
Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant, Miss Mikotaba Esquires. I'm in your debt forever. I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Go on and make your way into the courtroom at once. All right then, Mr. Natsume. It's time. Let's go. Yes! This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Let's go. Oh shit, right, new jury too. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. Defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance.
Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Sato-san? After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent.
Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate, violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Oh, it's him again. Yeah, you never know when you might be down your luck, but I believe it's fair play for everyone.
Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow.
Also, I'm not sure if this is the same guy as before, but he certainly looks like, he certainly has the same kind of face as, the other top hat guy from last trial. Oh, hey, it's you.
I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that Mustache Foreigner did the deed.
Ah, come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway.
Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zieks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student to the warmest of welcomes, regrettably their kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime, I'll tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are.
Just look at that sallow complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese.
Now, come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Throwing Shaw Ray, damn, we're going hard. Did you know, Ryunosuke, the position of Juror 6 is reserved exclusively for grandmas and grandpas?
Sorry, didn't quite catch that.
Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Luigi, hey! Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at the Scotland Yard.
Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector?
The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
I beg your pardon, Inspector? Thought to be?
Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious.
Yes, I gave him the Luigi voice because the green and the stash just made him kind of have that kind of vibe.
That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since.
What? So they don't even know who she is for sure? Comatose. I see. But her life is not in danger. You missed one stream. Yeah. Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector.
Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I recognize that map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles.
Okay.
It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. And then, out of the blue, she was approached from behind the accused and stabbed in the back.
Okay.
Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far.
Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence if you please.
The case file has been entered into the court record. A file containing an overview of the case and details about the victim. She was found with a knife in her back and is currently in the hospital, yet to regain consciousness.
What of the weapon that was used?
Actually, let me. I might need to take a closer look at this. Okay. Early 20s, stout build, pavement Briar Road, East Side. Reporting officer, Rolly Beat. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. Okay. Anybody that I missed around here? Okay, there's you, but we don't know much about you. Victim of the case who was found with a knife in her back. Luckily, the wound didn't prove fatal, but the woman remains unconscious in her hospital bed. Okay. Yeah, that's basically what we knew already. Alright, we found out more about them yesterday. That's fine, okay. We're mostly caught up, it's fine. What's of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose.
A common or garden jackknife, I would say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence.
The jackknife has been entered into the court record. A large but commonplace folding knife. It was found lodged in the victim's back.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume?
From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord.
I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim?
I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
Been a while since we heard the yes.
If theft and grievance have been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Bruh! Bruh! Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet.
Like, that could have actually hurt somebody, you know?
For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here.
What?
Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Time for some testimony.
As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed onto the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him.
Old books, you say?
Yes, my lord, I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime taken immediately after the incident.
Oh, okay. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector.
A crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. A large knife can be thrust into the victim's back. Okay.
You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zees, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it.
What are you doing, Mrs. Sato? Do go on.
Mr. Natsume has been admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened.
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs could carry me to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat?
Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing.
Oh my, a photographic print in full color? What will the world come up with next?
The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. This does not mean he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back.
There was nobody else at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. So in other words, there was nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes. It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance.
Alright. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, an unusually light fog. Okay. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was nobody else about but the accused and the victim. The victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed. Okay. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Must be a number of books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. Okay. Just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found out the bloke to arrest him. Tell me about the books, I guess.
Hold it!
Defendant apparently visited a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. Yes, a shop full of old English literature.
I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon and Books. A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Mearsham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end, which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Boop. I suppose, yes. Something like this. The local map's information has been updated in the court record.
Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop.
Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance.
Yes, I agree. The most important point the inspector just made being... the bookshop's... I'm gonna say location? Yeah, that checks out, yeah, because that's the only thing. Yeah, that is literally the only thing that... that really, they A, told us, and B, is of importance. Well, they told us the name, but that's not really very important, is it? The crucial detail what you just told the court inspector is the location of the bookshop.
I couldn't agree more.
So, where is it exactly?
Are you winding me up, Sunshine? I just explained that. I got the map out and everything, using red blooming ink, and I drew the bloke's route on home for ya.
I distinctly remember seeing you nod along, counsel. I thought we were saying to add that to the testimony. I thought that's what we were doing. Oh, yes, of course. I must have been so nervous I didn't take it in. The blunder of the day goes to you, my learned friend.
No, not yet. The trial's only just begun after all. Mr. Naruhodo, I would strongly advise you to look carefully through the court record at this stage.
Yes, miss. At once, miss. Sorry I made a mistake, miss. Inspector, continue with your testimony, please. Okay, so there's certainly something we need to fucking take from that, then. I genuinely thought we were looking for something to add to the court record. My bad. Not the court record, the testimony. I'm bad at words, if it wasn't obvious. The most important point is a name? Yeah, I guess. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor?
What?
Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal... Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. So it was adding to the testimony. They just called me an idiot for some reason. Okay. I believe it may be of vital importance.
Maybe?
Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue. Very well, not that I can see it being of any great significance, but please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector.
Yes, sir, my lord, whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronizes. Do we have anything that contradicts?
Oh, wait. Right. He went to your books, not Bourbon Books. Right. So 2 shillings and tender receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal for Gabriel and Canterbury yearnings. But that's not important. What's important is the name. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson.
What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know.
This is a receipt we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books.
And you found that in the accused's room, did you?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. Hi, Ladoggle. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume? Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Yeah, eh? What?
Inspector, do you know the name of this other bookshop?
Yes, sir.
Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books.
It's just that, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it. Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. I disagree. After all,
I have the street map here, if that might be of help.
Yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he almost certainly would have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, he may very well turn out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Very great video. Points off for making me drop my phone in a flush toilet. I'm sorry? Okay. Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility.
Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely. It could absolutely be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment?
Well, obviously we, looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Mearsome Street going east.
The local map's information has been updated in the court record. Okay. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Oh. Whoops. My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. Just, this case has given me some great reaction images. That's all I'm gonna say.
Could you put that glass? You put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. Let's go. If the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Yeah, it's basically the "you're not a clown" with the entire circus line, but like actually in one of the games. Because if I remember correctly, that line is actually not in one of the games, but people tend to think it is. But this one is in the game. There's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed.
Yes, thank you, Inspector. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Jesus. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try.
What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now.
Beg your pardon. Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Somebody get this guy, like, one of those, like hearing horns or something. How is he gonna be a juror if he can't hear half of what's going on?
Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up.
What do you mean?
If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty.
She's absolutely right.
We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully.
They claim Saseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from Your Books, but... Fuck it, raise an objection. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. The Ragged Reader and Tattered Tales Book Emporium, Explain yourself, counsel! Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, I mean, these definitely are shorter and are easier for me to read. Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between two places. Whoop. Yes, he could have taken the way that would have taken him, like, 2 extra minutes. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked. Talking back to a cloud is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what commonly referred to as the long way around. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. Aha! Yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this! I thank you, my learned friend. And I suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. I took the other way because there was a snail. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... I agree with Lord Van Zieks, wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean... We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well, in that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Shit. It would appear the jury's leading is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably.
Mr. Naruhodo?
No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of Quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into an antiquated British law should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative, not prerogative. It's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus refusal to throw in his alley. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. Alright, let me get a drink. I'm taking a sip. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If
said that the woman in green collapsed before his eyes. Well, it can only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the book stop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Your books, yes. Nice shop that, but Bob and books? No, not worth a visit.
With only minor exceptions, the reason for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt.
Why'd he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible! How can I possibly make a case for a defense?
Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue...
Yes, I know, I have to turn the tide. I just have to make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at the least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord.
I just need to keep this trial going somehow. Whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke. You can do it! Let's go. Shoutouts to fucking Gregson just standing there in the back. For pity's sake, that little nip on his arm already made it of himself, didn't he?
If he said that woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why could only have been the victim?
The man wouldn't have gone around the house on his way back from the bookstop, not in winter, so the poor woman was attacked from behind. How dreadful. I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Sir, that's not an argument. A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence? That's right. Meerschaum Street it was. Meerschaum Street.
On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets.
Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging up Meerschaum Street from dawn till dusk. Okay, well, let's start from the beginning and see if there's any that match up. Wait. Already admitted himself. He saw a woman in green collapse before his eyes. The man wouldn't have gone back around the houses on his way back from the book stop. Not in winter. Well, wait.
Objection.
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel. Explain yourself.
Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear.
What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3.
Oh, me, sir? What do you mean?
Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable, which means the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meerschaum Street and down Briar Road.
Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir?
Well, yeah, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings.
Yes, I suppose he must have.
I suppose that must be right, eh? Jury number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But, we see now that he had no choice.
My lord, my judge, sir, if I may.
Yes?
I don't think in all good conscience I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see his trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. Boop. What about you, sir?
Eh, who, me? Well, all right then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say. All right, good. Good progress. Just 2 more.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful.
Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat.
Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current learnings are really right or not. Current leanings, not learnings. Now, if only we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume. We might be able to tip the balance completely.
Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, counsel. On with the summation, please. Yes, my lord. All right, let's go. We're sticking up roads, digging up the truth. You gotta see it through the end, haven't you?
Your books, nice shop there, but Baldwin books, no, not worth the visit.
Do I press that?
Hold it!
Sorry, phone, you said? Phone what?
No. I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often?
Yeah, I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy bringing them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about.
And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question?
Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about.
Just before 5, you say. Exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time?
Oh yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had.
What do you mean?
Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery.
Damn.
Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up.
Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road?
That's right, I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books.
Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may well be extremely significant.
Sorry, extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now.
You've changed 2 of the jurors' minds, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, just 2 more to go.
Deliver the finishing blow now. It's time to turn the tables here.
Wish I knew how to do as you sought to take down.
I suppose words will have to suffice for now, though.
Well, pity's sake, he already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, well, it could have only been the victim. Just saying where his child goes. So the poor one was attacked behind him. Was she? How dreadful. Was digging up roads, digging up the truth. You gotta see it through to the end, haven't you?
I slipped over the evening myself on Calabash Road. I knocked myself clean out, you know.
Wait.
Would it be a stretch? Would it be a stretch? Would it be a stretch to say?
You know, I mean, you know, they're both sort of similar stature. They both like collapsed in a certain way. Although one was stabbed, one fell. I mean, you know, maybe. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, juror number 2, juror number 6.
Whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you.
Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to Your Books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot.
But the man says he has no recollection of his return journey.
That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes.
Yes, we're well aware of all this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
No. Can we really be sure of that, madam?
Whatever do you mean?
I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood.
Oh my! My goodness, you mean...
That's right. I'm referring, of course, to the hard of hearing juror number 6.
Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was a jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today?
That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that.
My goodness me!
Sorry, you need a pee. And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell.
On Calabash Road.
Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly, the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home.
Oh my!
You idiot old man, if you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, him? Is it a crime to slip over the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles or wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it?
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You'd like to change your leaning, I presume.
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you. And I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well... Let's go. Well, that summation examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The eyes 2, the nose 4. So the nose have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means you no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Motherfucker. Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Hey Siri. Hey Siri. What does churlish mean? Rude, selfish, or mean. Okay. Only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks? It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer.
Whatever do you mean? I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Isn't the whole point of jury to have people unconnected to the case judge it? I mean, yes, but... I mean, we just found this out, so... I mean... And Natsume's memory is, like, dog shit. not to be rude to the defendant, but... Indeed, stalwart juror member number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road, as he claims. Although the road repairman, yeah, I don't have an excuse for that one. I believe you said it's a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right, took me the whole day and they paid me a measly tuppence for it all. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? That's like, I want to say almost 2 meters? Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue now.
2 yards is a little less than 2 meters.
Yeah, hey! Okay, good. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Soseki Natsume jumped 6 feet. It's true, I saw it happen. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong now. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? What's he gonna do, haunt me? Try me. Yes. I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. My coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway. We just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump over. God damn it! I need to realign my words. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accursed is no gentleman, as far as I can see. Accused. Fuck. I cannot read. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Is that true? Is it? 6-foot horizontal leap. The incontrovertible truth is that what the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. Crushed in a single sentence. And old man. Cold man? You can talk. You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time?
Oh, I can't say as I remember.
You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Yeah, all right, bet. Order! Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. My lord, if you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student a sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over.
What are you talking about?
My lord! The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. Its next witnesses?
Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident.
Yes, I remember, one of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less.
I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness.
All right, no matter who Van Zeeks brings to the stand as his witnesses, and no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent, and I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over.
Hello.
Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Oh!
Constable Rolly Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
And I'm Mrs. Pete. Patricia's my name. And I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife.
What's the story here?
Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day.
No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems, tired.
Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world.
In the fan translation, it's Pat and Rolla. Alright, then. Honestly, pretty close then. Just a little off between the two. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually.
Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean, lighting and extinguishing our street lights.
There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all.
Ace Attorney, this is the third time you've brought a patrol pun into your games. Yeah. And I wouldn't count on it being the last time. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago.
But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. And when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor.
And a man of slumber.
On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat?
That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rowley?
Constable Rolly Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir.
What a great witness he's going to be.
Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. All right, let's get this testimony. Rise and shine, gamers. Let's get this testimony.
It was our wedding anniversary and Rowley was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help in a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dark. Rowley and I both saw him clear as day.
Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say.
Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, then the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed.
It's death knell, in fact.
Because that alternative was never viable in the first place.
What an unfortunate BA chancing. And on your wedding anniversary, too.
Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that.
Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed.
Indeed. However, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon.
What do you mean by that?
My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are to be testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure.
Except that the man's so tired his wife has to do all the talking.
Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense, commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord.
All right, let's get this. It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat?
Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply.
Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down the ground, doesn't it, darling? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there.
Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly. I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you. I see you in plain clothes.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? Ryunosuke, I'm a feminist. He walks out and refuses to elaborate.
That's right, sir, yes, although it was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir! As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and queen to the end.
What's that now?
My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. Has the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all of us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London and uphold the peace of the common mans. Sir! If such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure.
So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then.
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I want to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
If a little, over the top, perhaps? And then, kindly describe what happened next. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. Okay.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes? Yeah, it wasn't very foggy if I've heard correctly.
That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction.
Okay, yeah, but it was dark, never mind. Right.
There was a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man.
That does sound exactly like the victim is pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume.
Yes, unfortunately, it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby.
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight. You can see a fairly long way down the pavement. And there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians.
Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you just said?
Yes, sir. As a cop who spends all day, every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly.
They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something before running off.
Hold it!
Scattered something? What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? Didn't we, darling?
Yes, that's right. It was some old books.
I see. Old books.
Yes, the culprit dropped a number of them all around where the victim lay on the pavement.
Indeed, it's clearly pictured in this photographic print.
That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker.
But we saw him. It was the man in the dock, without question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub nose. Everything!
Any more insults you want to throw in?
That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes, and suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away.
I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue.
Yes, sir.
We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling?
What? Yes, that's right. I asked Miss Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Barbie's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene.
Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance.
That's why I said to Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box?
Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia to wait for the police box for the beat, the incident, report it.
I ran as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Barbie on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know.
Whoops, wrong button. And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens.
Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Isn't he, darling?
Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir.
Let's move on, shall we?
Hold it!
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by a light on the gas street lamps, would you?
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough.
This poor sleepy bastard, though.
My husband already told you the fog was only light, didn't he?
Yes, and what of the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the end of your own arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about?
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? Yoink!
Yes, I was the accuser. No mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub mouth. Unmistakable, sir.
As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day? Yes, I feel the same.
So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no, then what do we do?
If Kazuma-sama were here,
Wait, what are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean somewhere else?
Your statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Oh, right.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Why do I always seem to be so up against it?
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it.
What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all.
My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I can tell you the name of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is?
I never called your reliability into question.
No, it won't do at all. The Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, I don't think for a minute that Rowley will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please, put your husband's fists down.
Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat? Might that, appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling?
Sure. I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. Oh, well, wow. You know, the thing is,
Objection.
So, you're saying that there were 4 books?
That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur somebody, what's it yearnings, a meal for someone, and the thingammy something.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But there's a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
Oh no, what flaw?
Simply that at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. Oh hell yeah! Bring in the objection theme. Yeah.
What?
Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there are only 3 books.
But no, that can't be. I saw them. Oh, I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me.
Sorry.
It's that big old lump of a dead body. Laid so large, of course it's blocking the view of the 4th book, that's all.
Let's at least try to remember that the poor woman isn't dead, even if we're insulting her size. No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But Mr. Natsume could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you described.
Why not?
Fascinating. And from your assured tone, something you can readily substantiate with evidence, I presume. Ah, evidence.
Counsel, you will present evidence to substantiate your claim or withdraw it. What proof do you have the accused did not drop 4 books?
Well, on this receipt,
There's only 3.
Take that!
his attorney fans be like, why aren't you dead? Evidence is right here, in the form of this bookshop receipt. From your books, yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Fuck, wrong button.
No!
Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime. Which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon.
Gah.
So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, could very well be mistaken.
Oh, no, 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 no! No!
Objection!
Okay, Zeeks. Bring out the leg. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponi's friend. What? Okay, no, he's bringing out the wine. Okay. What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan is somewhat recoiled against you. What are you on about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh,
You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found. Hold it, you dumb bitch! But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books! Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say... Allow me to present another. One that shows the victim's hand.
You're fucking joking.
I don't believe it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. Say, bailiff, did you get those photos printed? Yep. Brogo's printed. No. No! God! Damn it! He really did get those bogos binted! Order! Order!
there, you see? Look at that! Look!
Yes, I am looking.
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling?
Yes, sir. This is always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. And balls.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gabrielle, in fact. And as the court has just heard, the witness remembers the titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. That's not flawlessly then, you dumb bitch. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, Rowley? The gentleman paid me a compliment.
Yes, sir, flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt. And Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, Counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book?
I wonder what became of that 4th book.
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here, as evidence. You'll submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, Counsel. My pleasure, my lord. A second photograph of the scene, taken by a policeman just after the incident, specifically shows the hand. The 4th book, The Lion's Pride, was discovered in the victim's hand. The prosecution rests. Okay, well, you better, because I need to actually... I need to take a close look at this real quick.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me?
The prosecution rests. I sleep.
Alright, well, nothing else really seems to warrant looking at. I just wanted to get a look at that.
I have nothing further to add.
What?
You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accursed lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination.
Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I?
You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling?
Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat.
So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position.
I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse.
Think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you know now?
Raise an objection.
Objection.
I'm not done yet.
No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but...
I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For lowly judicial assistants to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this.
Oh.
I thought she was about to snap back at Zeeks, and rightfully so. Damn it. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable.
Mr. Naruhodo.
One of these land's great guiding principles is tolerance. So, the court will hear you, madam.
Go ahead, Mr. Sato. Please.
Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their learnings in a moment. Leanings, fuck, why do I keep misreading that? And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly—
I already did. Honey, I already did, and I think I already know where we're going.
Yes, I understand. And thank you, Mr. Sato. This is it. Sato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. Defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that a apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked. Oh, wow, whoa, that was fast. The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book, found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify its clue at once. Do I make myself clear?
Oh, yes, my lord. It's Mr. Naruhodo, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence.
Well, it's too late. We already examined it.
Which means you very well may be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right.
So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case, which this fourth book conceals?
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good heavens, man! It's been burnt to a crisp! So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Were I to concede to the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. Did you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? A charred book? There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tone has suffered? Its owner? My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals startling truths. Namely, about the book's owner. I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor, after all. It's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers.
Good gracious, how could you possibly... Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry.
I get it. Like the book.
Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this book?
This goddamn crescent moon motherfucker right here.
Take that!
The answer is the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The landlords? I knew it. I knew landlords couldn't be innocent in the case. Absolutely not. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know. But of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today was none other than Miss Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness.
Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. The woman is the accused landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence.
Yes.
Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection.
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house.
Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel?
A fire, my lord.
Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. The worst of it is I lost my favorite, a book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride?
Oh, what's wrong, huh?
By Jove, the very same title that the subject of this debate! Oh dear me!
Objection.
This is risible! All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire, in which case it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime.
Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly?
Absolutely not, sir! My position would never raise a finger against me, sir! But he sure would yank you around, huh?
Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got a hold of them, that was it. Whoosh! Up in smoke. And the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen.
The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him.
Goodness gracious, are you suggesting
That the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection.
No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. There was no report of the Garrideb's window pane being broken.
That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb household. But it is not conceivable that the window was open at the time and...
Not even remotely! Let's not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Duh.
Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? You earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife? I believe it's a possibility, my lord. Get him! Oh shit.
Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really?
Claiming that little tip set the whole neighborhood alight. Honestly, implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
To right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this Nipponese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache. He ran away from the scene, too.
I do declare you're right.
It's true.
Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me.
Sorry, what's that?
Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks?
In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage.
No, wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been...
There it is. If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty. Guilty.
Shit.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Fuck. Thank you for that unambiguous response.
That's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Miss Sasato? Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting... Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance.
My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve? I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Damn, that sure is a place for it to be continued. We're still gonna go with it, though. I consider the defense's counsel request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I determine that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of the crime. I literally said this before. I mean, I feel like we would know the rules at this point, but what do I know? Right, I'm just here. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? The 3 books of his.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to the crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit.
Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble.
Yeah, come to think of it, we had a fire home a while ago. It gave her the sneezes.
Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute as a tangible explanation here?
Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman and how? Those 2 details are all you need provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted.
And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. that's the second time. Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this will really be where the trial ends.
No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel?
Oh, yes, my lord. All right, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now.
Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say, Mrs. Garadeb.
We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident. And the 4th book found in the victim's hand.
There must be a way to link the two.
Yes, that's what we have to find.
Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes.
Don't forget to keep an eye on Miss Garadeb and how she reacts, even to things other people say.
Alright then, both earphones in then. So I can hear if she, like, makes a noise. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? That's 3 books. There's some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed I might reconsider. Even if the woman was storing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? It was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit.
But what if it was on fire?
Look, I just want to get this over with. Boy, if you don't give me a proper statement... You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, You know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful.
I wonder if Mr. B will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf.
Don't even go there, Mrs. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. I'm thinking of it, we had a fire home a while ago. It gave me a sneezes. Tell me more about that, actually.
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case?
Yeah, sorry. What's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a fire hazard it was.
You put candles on a cake? What, was it some kind of devil worship? Real.
Of course not. It was an angel cake to celebrate my birthday, obviously.
It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo.
Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. Ryu, please. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire?
What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then because the whole room had filled up with smoke, we had to open all the windows to clear it.
The windows.
The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason.
We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he, or she could have done it.
Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I'm going to try to enforce it. Yeah, okay. The accused left behind evidence at the scene. Even if the woman was storing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? I'll come back to that. Hold on. Just want to get this over with. I don't bring home some pay, and I'll be a tidy bit of trouble. Winter house fires are dire. You have to open windows to clear the smoke. That's when the chill gets you. Well.
Objection.
These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel?
Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What was that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up.
Juror number 3. Do you see?
Oh, me? See what, sir?
Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter.
Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the...
Yeah. Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my.
Oh!
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garadeb!
Oh, dearie me! What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply I'm hiding who I really am?
It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now.
What is it?
When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window?
What? I beg your pardon. What are you insinuating?
The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window.
And what if we did? Oh, all right then, yes. You're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't be easy since I continue to give him a justly deserved book battering.
Even though your house was on fire?
Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise.
Of course. I should have realized.
That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mr. Garadeb's formal statement.
Roger that. Now you mentioned it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true.
Hold it.
You got any more information to say about that? The 4th book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. Aw, shit. What the fuck was that? Hold on. Okay, it's nothing big. Alright, we're fine. We're still good. The title of that book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garadeb told us he had been reading.
Well, I really couldn't say.
On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. Now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right.
Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset?
Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as well you know.
I really don't.
I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it.
Bruh?
Excuse me.
What is it, juror number 5?
You know something? I've remembered what it was. The memory I blocked out. I was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back.
Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garadeb, or the maid, I'll have you know.
The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time.
Yeesh. It was about 2 weeks ago now. Just gotten back home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out.
Oh dear, what a disaster.
You haven't heard the half of it, boy.
Oh?
My wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck it to the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep. Yeesh.
No words, just terror.
I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was gonna end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined.
I wasn't thinking that.
Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like.
What, attack?
Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think.
Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me. Mention it. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed. Oh, on God?
Objection.
Those two statements clearly have a deep, significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once! Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative?
Oh my, whatever do you mean?
An alternative explanation is that how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below. Eh, what's that now? After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, Juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? Eh? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps he's had a feeling that this might be what happened. Now listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What is it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. It's a bold accusation to make by having any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garrideb household to the scene of the crime was the jackknife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garrideb.
What now?
I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Oh. Good Lord, counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lost into the victim's back, man! My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garrideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who had been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't possibly believe that! The book was found in the victim's grasp! Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Ha! Even my missus hasn't got a name like that. Yeah. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my! Yeah! Mrs. Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, a straight answer, please. Don't beat around the bush. I beg you. Ah! I'm taking that as a yes. I'm taking that as a fucking yes. My lord! I wish to change my position. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman? I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny didn't mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Yeah. We did it.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zieks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Ah, like a corked wine. The first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zieks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke, to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that?
What's his angle this time?
It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrideb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garrideb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards.
Let me see, 15 yards is around 14 meters.
14 meters? Ah, that's a little farther than I'd imagined. And as you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, rightfully noted, having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend. Absolutely. And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? Yes. This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Damn.
I can say here, that prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mrs. Sato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense. Yes, go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy. But what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. To that end, juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garrett must be called to testify and submit the cross-examination.
Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order! Order! Well, this is highly irregular. It's unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection.
My leg! And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks? There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both the burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they will be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? You guys are still here. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Constable Rowley Beat reporting for duty, sir.
Well, good morning, officer.
Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more.
Oh, Rowley, my hero, you make me swoon.
Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request.
Oh.
And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again.
Fuck.
State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events.
Yes, sir.
Case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
You see, sir,
The windows on the top floor of the Garrett house are top hinged casements.
Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rowley was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is quite startling. Top hinged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable.
Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable.
No, sir!
Sorry, but... what exactly is a top hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance of such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course. Sorry.
I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garredeb's room.
Alright, I'll try.
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. Damn shit, they got windows? As the top hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper ends, you see.
I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount.
It prevents its opening? This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir.
In other words, if a book or knife would have been thrown through the open window,
it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below.
Okay.
No.
You see the problem then.
Yes, I see the problem now. Oh, do ya?
Good, your education in Windows is complete. Next, we move on to Apple. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we discounted already. That can't be!
You see that, Roly? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony.
Oh, yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me.
Oh, Roly, you're so strong.
How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination.
My lord. Oh, good. Another desperate situation.
This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, London Bobby is good for his word. Bullshit!
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all of us policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he?
Did he? I can't say I remember.
To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. That's what the job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly, sir.
Oh, Roly, you're so manly.
Of course I am, my darling Patricia.
Oh, Pat.
Oh, Roly.
Wait, fuck, mixed up. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett?
I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir.
Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time then.
Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason for why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. Before I get into that, sir, just one thing.
Yes?
I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles.
I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here.
So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears.
Thank you. I'll try.
You see the top windows, top hinged casements. Give me just a minute. I want to examine this. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. Item number 1. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Just there to allow a bit of air to the house, you see, so they're restricted as to how much they open. Yeah, okay. And therefore, anything thrown out of the window from inside the room will simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Donk. Here's the location where the objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime on the other side of the wascally wabbit, rather wide road. God, would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top hinged casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable.
And what would that be, sir?
How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house is furnished with?
Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
You good?
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Out of the way.
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Sorry.
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course, I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. We were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rowley's Beat. It was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rowley's Beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat!
Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garrett household yesterday. The house is on my beat, you see, sir.
That really was cutting it close then.
Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat.
I see. I was not aware of that.
Just think if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would have never been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. That's life of a Bobby, after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rowley for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling?
That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it.
I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately.
The case file's information has been updated in the court record. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beat, the border of which runs down the middle of Briar Road.
Now it's my turn, I think.
Obviously, if anything had been thrown out the window, we would have seen it.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rowley and I were scrolling along, gazing at the night sky, looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can't it guide you to answer the question? Yeah, true though.
If a flaming look had cut across the sky in front of us, a flaming book, not a flaming look, God. It would have lit up like a shooting star.
And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Like an airplane.
That song isn't of our time, Miss Patricia.
Let Rowley be an inspector, I would have said. 3 times at least.
Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, you are trying to say neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir.
It certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rowley was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right? Whoops.
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rowley's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course.
Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat.
So Rowley told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. But
Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me.
Okay, come off it, y'all. Come off it.
Oh, Pat.
Oh, Roly.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Roly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir.
You sure about that? Nothing to report? Are you sure? Nothing to report?
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir.
Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me.
This burnt copy of The Lion's Pride was originally in the Garadeb household. So the question remains, how did it find its way to the hands of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as how you were at the scene of the crime the entire time?
Aha! Could have been a different copy, sir. One that just happened to be burnt as well.
Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder.
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene.
Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. Two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. I see some common thread between them.
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir.
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us again, aren't you? I can tell.
What? I wasn't, what's she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make my testimony any less valuable.
I understand that, honey, I understand.
You just might see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am.
I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you.
No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Miss Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. It's a very loud mutter.
I heard that. The Japanese man is a policeman, thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Roly won't.
Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue.
What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder?
I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though.
Hold it!
Mrs. Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us.
I saw an idea that evening. I saw it clearly. Little Easter man with the whiskers and the funny curved back slinking away from the scene.
God, y'all are just getting on this guy's ass. So what if his posture's a little weird? Jesus. My posture's weird. And I mean also the funny Japanese man comment also. But you know, everybody's racist in this game, so it's like
I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky.
all very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction?
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I was ended up at the wrong place and I've made arrangements to meet Roly. You ever get so cross?
Hunna, buddy?
Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem?
Hey, no, sir. No problem, sir.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening, is all.
You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident?
Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone for a good 15.
Oh, Rolly, you're such a tease.
Please keep it off of the court record, please.
But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly.
The bouquet?
Sorry. What bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Rolly's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I've forgotten all about him till just now. And you, my darling?
Yes. Oh, yes. But that was just, between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise.
Really? Oh.
What was all that about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet.
Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to.
Oh, Zeeks is watching. I almost had dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. We ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first.
And then you went to the police box and reported to the policeman whose beat it was on?
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That was when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing was when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
In case you needed reminding, Miss Beat, this victim is not deceased.
I was all flustered for a moment because I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably?
That's right, silly me, I got over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to burn the bouquet this time, I can't think how it got there, I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose?
Oh, yes, that's it! That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary, with all bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose.
Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where'd you come by the flower?
According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household. In front of the Garadeb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until this morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It is believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare.
Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No. I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the courtroom as evidence.
Oh,
A present for Patricia Beat from her husband, Rolly. The shock of seeing the stabbed victim caused Miss Beat to drop the rose where she stood.
but it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial, do you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief! Rest assured I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beat.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front. Well, don't we have just the thing for that statement now?
Objection!
You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, The bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But consider the size of this meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described. No doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager?
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact?
No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor.
But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Broly didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you two talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garredev's book. Mr. Garredev's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane in the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garredev's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Broly's doing something wrong. Or done something wrong.
Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says? Wittering on about books and bouquets, why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is.
Oh, good. Mrs. Garredeb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garredeb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called,
Tampering, Mr. Naruhodo.
But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would have possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception?
Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person.
Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying was responsible for tampering with the crime?
Nope. They were inside. We don't fucking know where he was. No. It's gotta be you, buddy.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly B. It was you!
What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would my Broly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London.
Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it.
Oh,
And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene.
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well?
Well, I mean, landlords are bastards, police are bastards. What's the difference, really?
But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there's only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime: to hide something.
that's right. He's right, but my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why do we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You've offered no motive for his alleged tampering. And until you do, Your accusations are nothing but empty threats.
Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair.
Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive of this. You will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord.
Constable Beat's motive for tampering at the crime scene was to hide where the book fell, the bouquet fell, where the victim fell?
Where the victim fell to the ground.
That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs.
What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe, but in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
I think I know where we're going with this.
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
On the opposite side? Where it was moved over here?
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Garadev's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right, I saw it with my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was a typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print. The victim herself, the 4 books, he moved everything in fact to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly.
The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Dijk said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position, on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond, Constable Rowley Beat?
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, Rowley. It isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know.
I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I
did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly! Order! What is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Rowling, why? Why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offense, isn't it?
Yeah. Wishing the victim dead should be one too.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am ever so sorry about all of this. For damaging the Yard's reputation. For everything.
I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason.
What? What could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Zieks, is it this foreigner who uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far? I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord.
England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
Peace will strive to preserve the peace within its allotted beat. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day. Any crimes fall into the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. But it was his anniversary, so he maybe didn't want to deal with that.
Take that!
I realize I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Also, he hasn't slept in a month. Yeah.
Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly.
But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special.
Special? How?
On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh, yes. It was our very first wedding anniversary.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road.
When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, must have gone through the man's mind.
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Miss Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care.
Yeah. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on the beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives.
Aha!
Constable Beat? Is that, or is that not, the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yeah, the music in this game is absolutely fantastic all around.
Yes. Everything you said, it's all right.
So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat.
Oh,
Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat.
Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done?
It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Damn. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Mearsham Street, and then... Oof. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Constable.
I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner.
Oh, Rowley.
Just that one night.
You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care.
You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rowley would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement.
Ah, I see your meaning now.
But God got me back for my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat.
Oh no, Rowley, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rowley.
And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total?
4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4.
3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household, of course.
But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it?
When we first went over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding?
Oh, yes, sir, no doubt about it, sir.
Interesting. The 4th book's information has been updated in the court record. The book entitled The Lion's Pride that was in the victim's hand when Mrs. Beat first ran over to see what had happened.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only the 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it, I thought.
I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference.
I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it.
Oof. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zieks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late.
Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired.
All right then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you.
Yes, sir.
Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Never again, sir. You mean to say?
Leave, now. This trial is not yet over.
Sir!
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that?
Police officer not facing consequences, huh?
How timely. Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for a knife in the victim's back.
Forgive me for being presumptuous. But I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already.
Lord Van Zees, is this true? Very well. Name the person, if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime.
Sorry, honey, my mind goes to you. You were the one throwing shit and all that. And also, you knew the knife, so...
Take that!
Defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garrideb. Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied. But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garrideb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garrideb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened the window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open, top-hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the arrangement, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garrideb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said the members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4.
Oh!
Make no mistake, your jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. Just the you are not immune to propaganda meme, but it's Barrick's face and the judicial process instead of propaganda. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out.
But that's just a common old garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know? What's that?
Are you joking? What are you saying, please, Miss Garadeb? Mrs. Garadeb. God, I need to...
Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I had injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already.
Then take the stand, juror.
Oh,
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman.
Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks.
Finally, some cooperation.
I am going to have to testify.
Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate having it observed with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truth being unearthed, truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garadeb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. You concur, counsellors?
Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord.
Let's go.
Such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Hell yeah. Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garadeb. And I'm a juror and such like.
Sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. You understand, madam?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Oh? Chin up, Jody. Nothing to worry about now. It's you, Mr. Crescent Moon looking bitch.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
I mean, I had a feeling that's why I was doing the voice, but, you know, I'm glad to have been confirmed. Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather, I think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. Not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garadeb? Yes, sir. Former Second Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action, now living the quiet life, as it were. Banana is also a pretty apt description, yeah. The quiet life. Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Ah, well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once! Alright. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did a bit of a skirmish.
can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd notice if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. That badly thing in the victim's back really was one of ours. You have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, veterans such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death in any moment.
Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such the surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end.
Van Zieks may well be right.
Well, whatever the chances. We have only this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
I've heard the love war, but this is just bullshit.
The Battle of Garadeb.
The way they even titled the testimony / cross-examination like it's some war battle too. That's a nice touch. On the day you're referring to, the wife and I did a bit of a skirmish, can't recall the reason now. Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open. Alright, that tracks, considering what we know.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Clarified. Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That is most certainly not true of us who sought to take down Mr. Naruhodo. How did you know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day?
In all honesty, I don't recall. I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin.
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb.
Don't you... What? Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just a barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks. Oh my god, and the fire poker I seem to recall. Ouch. And the woman's aim is uncanny. She had a direct hit with every batting. Oh god! Oh, good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir? Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did? Yes. When I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage.
Does he smoke Earl Grey? That's a good question. I'm surprised the window didn't break, yeah. I see, your pipe was broken.
It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now.
You're one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
I wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important. Every little detail counts, I think. Defense believes Mr. Gyarados' remarks just now to be of great significance.
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony.
Indeed. Common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Oh, whoops, wrong button. What? Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
Mr. Gyarados' pipe. Apparently it fell to the floor during a domestic dispute when he had with his wife and broke.
I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh, no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully.
Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garradeb. Now if we return to the crux of the matter, what can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim?
Can we examine the pipe actually? Hold on. Playing knocks are on their place. Can't say I noticed. One or two of them went missing. Yeah, let me examine. Oh, hello.
How are you smoking anything like that, man? Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yeah, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be...
Looks like it might be a tip of a knife blade. Okay, now I gotta check the knife.
Oh!
Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing.
Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this?
Oh, that's the tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe.
Yes, and just maybe.
Oh my, it's a perfect fit.
Somehow I just knew it. Mm-hmm. Can't say I noticed. One or two went missing, I'm afraid. If that belly thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you have a job proving it, I think. It's a perfect fit for the missing tip of the knife found in the victim's back. How about that?
Objection.
Mr. Gyarados, can I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eyed Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, it does. Dearie me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word.
You must... you must D very dussy. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of the case, my lord. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence when paired with this fragment of metal allegedly reveals the truth? Got ya! This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you'll see that there's a small piece at the tip of the blade that's missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection.
Which one of them would have the motivation? Yeah, that's the question. And that's what we're gonna find out. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. Oh! Good grief! Lord Van Zieks? I don't believe it! A knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match! Good golly gosh! Order! Order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? So Van Zieks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe?
Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Not to clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did, yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Gyarados flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Gyarados, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord! Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe. The chance of that, 1,000,000 to 1! And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out the open window. So it could have been an accident then, maybe, yeah. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Gyarados' house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below.
Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no!
Objection!
How many bottles, man? How many bottles you got under there? Jeez. A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, possibly arranged to create the most passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, it's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable? What? Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. What's this inconsistency you claim to have identified? It's just a theory. Again. An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. Yes, leg indeed. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... That's right, you silly little man! Now, Jodo thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let's consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. The knife that struck her had fallen from above. There's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. He's just whipping out all of the, like, fancy animations right now, yeah. Order! Order! Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Are you still allowed in court again? Well,
He's lost for words, look. I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place.
I don't know, though, what really did happen. It would appear the defense has made rather a spectacular blunder. If a theory is even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history! We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency.
Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and the theory will stand. Mr. Sato, You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record. I'm sure. All the information you need is there.
It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponi's friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection.
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test.
Yes! If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way I could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is.
What are you implying, counsel?
There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness! Utter madness! Surely this must be a last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is my attorney's badge or armband. Nah. Local map, no. Second handbook, no. No. Victim's hand. Okay. If the book belongs to Garradeb, and it was also thrown out the window, could it be that the victim bent over to pick it up, which is why it was in their hand, and while they were trying to pick it up, the knife flew out and stabbed them in the back? Yeah, that's Ace Attorney enough for me.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. Oh shit. The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Garradeb's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know now, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place the book in the victim's hand?
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
Yeah, think about it. I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh, dearie me.
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garradeb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
Book I threw.
Yes, Mrs. Garradeb, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really can't imagine it. But I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up.
Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book.
Oh heavens!
When the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book... Shit. The next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Will I never! It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. There never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. To be fair, if a book fell in front of me, I go around it because I don't want another book to get dropped on me. Or, you know, a knife. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb? The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Poor Mrs. Garadeb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear. It's all right, I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry! Bop. Damn. Aww. Oh, right, his knee. Fuck. Brother! Brother! Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Garadeb? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear today's events have left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They still have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. Plot twist because fingerprint testing doesn't exist yet, so Seki actually picked up the knife and stabbed her. God, no, we cannot have two people that we are defending be guilty in one game, please. Although, to be fair, the first one died. I just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon.
It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we never once met her.
How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems.
Yes, that is good news.
So, Mr. Seki Natsume. Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. When does this take place? I believe, like, around 100 years before the events of the main Ace Attorney games. Somewhere around that time, I think. Yeah, 1900-ish, yeah. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon.
Oh no, Mr. Natsume.
That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir?
I was sure that the woman was dead.
Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too.
I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless.
It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me.
Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him.
Yes, poor man.
So, when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We will be fooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Deeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirits exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh! Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you that we've reached a fair and just conclusion.
I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time.
I say I'll have a cork of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I?
Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman!
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Hell yeah.
Very well, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Not guilty.
Let's go. Is that what goes on in British court? I mean, this is this, to the best of my knowledge. I wouldn't know. And finally, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, yes, Lord Sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh, yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again.
Wait, don't.
Transport you tears.
Please, don't phrase it like I'll never step foot in a courtroom again. Like, that implies you might end up like the last defendant. Oh, no.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned.
Whew.
Oh, locum.
Wait, you mean me?
Of course. Is there another locum here?
Is there even one?
Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it?
What's wrong with using my actual name?
Oh, at last I'm free. I'm free. Joyful, joyous, jubilation. Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah!
Oh, I'm pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted.
Would it be so hard just to say that then?
Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink.
Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now.
No, not that. Lovely, loyal, locum, lawyer.
Yes?
I mean, as I said before, I just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners, I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. That little hunchback.
Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume.
But today, you, locum lawyer, gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. When I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!"
Wow, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you.
This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan.
An anecdote? Is that what's become of all my hard work?
Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. Oh, Herlock! I do apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you.
I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say.
Oh,
The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No! My haste was in vain. It's you! Herlock Sholmes! Oh? Have we met, sir?
this is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom. Either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light.
Charming.
This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Had she been taken to hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless! Oh, I am sorry, really. But that was quite priceless. Poor Sasaki-san. Still, on the bright side, you had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper! Ah, Lord Van Zieks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed.
It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! Why'd you throw me? No, with a perfectly executed Susato takedown.
Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of a warning might be nice next time, Miss Sasato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan?
Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon.
Oh,
It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
that's very touching, Mr. Natsume.
Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own.
Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san would be an interesting read.
And what about Mr. Sato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustache compatriot?
Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I calculate we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted.
Well then, you can take my lodgings.
Oh, the windowless room?
Ah, but what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with a floor, a ceiling, and walls.
Great.
And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit.
Oh my, an evil spirit?
Oh yes, it tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call.
We'll think about it, if that's all right. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Kokoro is an actual book by Suseku Natsume, funny fact. Oh yeah, because of the name of the episode, yeah. Well, the vacancy has conveniently presented itself, though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful! What an honor to be invited to taking lodgings with a great detective office is at it! I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere is out, then. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist.
I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes.
Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long.
Somebody's happy.
Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London.
Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon.
Well, I've come to realize I belong in Japan. But Locum, we will meet again one day.
Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer.
Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author.
Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Here we are. It's a little dingy, but we can make it work. So this
Is to be our new office, yes.
our office? I rather like the sound of that.
Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it?
I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Oh, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much. This is a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it.
Also, that outfit, though, on Sholmes.
Good, I'm pleased to hear it.
Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We'll have a lot to celebrate.
Iris, you must let me help you.
Well, at least we almost went up with Iris. Listen, I know. I know I have a problem obsessing over the men in this game, but like, I really didn't think it would be Sholmes that would set it off, but you know.
All right then, Susie, you can be in charge of the salad.
Holmes has no tits or ass, but his fit though.
Splendid.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those are precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Till I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and youth. Mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. Yeah, I'm glad we're wrapping up. I'm starting to lose words. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Of course, at the time, I had no idea the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. Oof. Alright, and that's the end of that case. I think for now, we'll call it right here. And next time we play this game, we will be with the adventure of the unspeakable story, which I believe is the end of game 1 of 2 in this collection. So for now, thank you for coming, thank you for staying, thank you for watching the show, and I will see you all next time.